and I think Arizona, where even if the intended father is single, I recommend traditional surrogacy because if you have a partnership but don't get married or never intend to get married, is probably best that you would have more rights to the child if in case the mother leaves or whatever reason the relationship breaks up. So she can be a a girlfriend, and you you agree, you have an agreement between the two of you. What's your parenting plan? So you would have a parenting plan drawn up and notarized beforehand. It could be 50-50, or if you want to make sure that, but that's the same as a prenup when you do a parenting plan, because that could still be, um, even though there was an agreement beforehand, it may not work in family court. And what works is usually better in family court is when there is a sole custody already designating one parent as the primary guardian and caregiver. So the primary guardian caregiver usually has the full rights and say over the child and cannot be taken away if the mother so chooses to just leave the father out of the equation. But the mother's still involved in many ways. There's no ways that she can waive her rights to being the mother of the child, especially if she's the biological mother. The only way that she can waive her rights to the child is she's not the biological mother, and that's with gestational surrogacy when you just go through a database and you just hire a surrogate to carry the child who's not the biological mother, is just the carrier, and you're going to the database to get the egg implanted with your seed through artificial insemination. And once that's done, or inverto, in vitro, and then the only biological legal parent would be the father in that case with gestational surrogacy. Um, yeah,
Cool.
there's more to it, but yeah, those are the two primary differences.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What does Savaya think about that?
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, it's still a very new concept to me. I keep bookmarking different things because I want to read about more about it, and I just haven't yet. But the way that you explain it, I mean, it does make a lot of sense. It's basically just a way around the legal system as it stands now, being set up so much against fathers and their rights. But um, I think I don't know. It's just one of those things that I think most women, even if you explained it down as base as possible, they're going to think no. They're going to think
Yeah, that's
there's no
where.
way I'm going to let that happen.
Mhm. Yeah, totally understandable. I've had relationships where I brought this up and they said no way, and I just said okay, well we could just be friends with benefits then. And that was pretty much the end of that conversation.
I would say like maybe gestational surrogacy is more, well, first of all,
Yeah,
safer, but also like if someone is just, desperately in need of some money, um, they might agree to gestational surrogacy because it's not their own child, even though they're carrying the child. But the traditional
yeah,
surrogacy for fathers does sound like a stretch to me. I mean, I think of it this way: like women are, because the way you describe it, it almost sounds like you're doing it. I mean, you are definitely doing it just for the contract, just for the paper,
hmm
to protect you in the event of something going wrong, which is really not much different than like what a prenup.
yeah. It's an insurance policy.
It's an insurance policy. It's like why some men have decided to do prenups for marriages, and so but look at the pushback that women give us when we tell them about prenups. Now imagine, getting them to do a prenup, but for your child. So it's
Yeah.
like, I'd
Um.
like
Yeah,
to
that's
hear.
why it's important to keep the frame in the relationship
Yeah.
because I say, okay, usually it's when my girlfriend would want a child with me. And I would say, okay, if you want a child, I just want to make sure that for for the sake of the child, as well as for the sake of my well-being, because I would be devastated if I couldn't spend and raise the child myself.
Right.
Like I don't want to be t- taken to court and forcibly removed from my offspring. And with a traditional surrogacy, it's completely fair. It's actually what most women actually want. It's they still have the rights as the biological mother, so they can't waive those rights because they're the biological mother. This child can't be taken away. She has full visitation rights and she has full say. Um, and in some cases, it's been fought and won where the surrogate child has been taken by the biological mother because she was the biological mother and won. But the only thing is it just makes it more difficult for that to happen because it and for one because you're not married that she would have to pay for the lawyers. She would have to fight in court, and pretty much it's not like when you're married and she decides to leave you and take the kids and just claim do a silver bullet divorce like what happened with my best friend. You have no say. You have no way of fighting back, and you have to pay for her lawyer in most cases, especially if she's not working. It, I'm just saying that uh, she, both of you are in the parents. If you want both parents in life and you want to make it difficult for a separation and equal parentage, then I would go with traditional surrogacy, as long as she is a good mother. I guess the vetting would have to be done.
Yeah. Um. A way that I sort of go about explaining things when it comes to prenups and the like is that when you get married, regardless if you actually go through the pre the private prenup process, I mean, there's always a prenup in place. It's either the prenup that you and your partner decided on and worked out the terms that you guys felt were fair to you, or you just go, or the government gives you the default prenup that they assign to you when you get the license. So there's a prenup one way or the other. It's either public or private. And so that's how I really see it with the surrogacy, where you're either making your own plan or someone else is, the government notably is the one making the plan for you.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's just cutting the government personal agreement. That's it. You ever heard of a vow agreement? It's basically a marriage contract.
Yeah.
It just states what you're willing to do and not do, and reason for you breaking the contract with your own contract instead of a marriage license. This makes the government involved with your marriage and make the terms.
I mean, the way that I've always heard religious people put it is that, um, if Adam and Eve didn't, if all Adam and Eve needed was God, I don't see why that's not what everyone else needs. and they don't need all this government bureaucracy for it. But I know that since we have the government, we have to work through it. So, like I said, it's good. It's either public or private plans that either it's gonna come from the government per se, giving you the default plan, or it's gonna be you and your partner just working something out on your own terms.
Yep. Yeah. I don't believe the government should be involved with families. That's probably what's causing the downfall of families today.
I agree. I mean, personally, like a lot of people like to say that gay marriage and stuff is what brought the downfall of marriage, and I'm like, no, I believe what really caused the downfall of marriage is when it essentially became a glorified welfare program with all of the government benefits that come with it, because it really removed the traditional sort of mindset where the only benefits that you got out of the marriage were the ones that were agreed upon by your community service, like your community, your local community. Like, if your community has certain plans, like and how they do marriage, that would be your benefits. But the government came in and they basically just took that over, and now it's more or less, like I say, it's a glorified welfare program.
Yep. There's more children born to third world countries with, and they make it work, and they don't have any type of government support, so it keeps the family together. Because if they rely on each other to take care of the family, and it's usually the grandparents involved too, and even aunts and uncles or cousins. It has a community of everybody who's blood related. It takes a village,
Yeah,
and we got away from that.
So, Logan, I have a question for you. Sorry to just kind of barge in here, but um, so I've been hearing you talk about traditional surrogacy for a few weeks now since we met, and I'm starting to understand the differences between traditional and gestational surrogacy. Now, it's
Hmm.
obviously a subject that you've thought a lot about. If you, well, two questions. First is, what are you hoping to achieve by talking about this? Like, do you want more men um, to start asking for this when they enter relationships?
Yeah, yeah, one
Okay,
hundred percent.
100%. Okay, and then the second question is, do you think that, because you said earlier that this would be more fair, um, between the sexes and relationships.
Hmm.
Uh, is this something that you think can be implemented like long term, or like is it sustainable? Is it something that we can get the governments to observe? I mean, is it observable yet, or yeah, just
Oh
those two
yeah,
questions.
yeah. There's, like I said, there's a few states and countries that observe traditional surrogacy. Um, Traditional surrogacy was usually between married couples that couldn't have children, so they used a blood relative. That's how it first came about. Well, I just did a little double check on that. Usually, a relative that could carry a child and would carry it for the couple that couldn't have a child. That's how it first came about. And now it's morphed to more with men's rights, to where it's, hey, how about where men want to be fathers, men want to be able to pass on their lineage, and especially their wealth and knowledge to a child. That's theirs.
Yeah, I get that. I guess So we were mentioning earlier that gestational surrogacy is kind of a safer option
Yeah.
in terms of not because when you have traditional surrogacy, the mother is well like she's known. We know who she is.
Yes.
Whereas with gestational surrogacy, it's almost like you're rent. I mean, for lack of a better way to describe it, you're essentially renting her womb.
Yes.
Um,
The
and
reason why I believe in families, that's why I'm more traditional surrogacy
yeah,
as a
right. You don't
Christian
want to
and as
deprive the child of a mother. You just
yes.
want
Yes.
something that will kind of protect you in the event, or in if it were to happen that you divorce or something happened like that, or not even
I find
divorce.
it is yeah, I find it's far less likely of divorce happening if there's no reward. She can't
Right.
take the child and claim child support.
You know that's a very interesting point because I've always said, well, I would rather marry a woman. Wait, hang on. I would rather. Um, what did I
Not
always
marry,
say? No, no.
not marry,
So
and just have a child.
no. What I'm
That's
trying to say
Marry a
different.
is I
man.
would trust a woman more who brings up uh, prenups or even like agrees to doing a prenup than a woman who wouldn't agree to doing a prenup because in that event it's like she's in this for the long haul first of all, and second of all she's not thinking like, oh, I might divorce him or something might not work. Like does that make sense? And the same thing is true. This is almost like an added level of like safety. Like if you meet someone and she's like, "Oh yeah, I'll do the prenup. Yeah, I'll do the traditional surrogacy." So that basically tells you like she's in this for
Hmm.
the long haul,
Yeah,
right?
but for one, I want to touch on
If I also
prenup.
may, if I
Hold
also
on,
may,
hold on.
all right, go ahead.
Before I forget, I need to get this up. The a prenup wouldn't deal with children at all. It's just protecting your assets. And two, it's easier to protect your assets in an irrevocable trust, and you can have a will and trust where your children t- um, have that investment for them as a way of protecting your assets as well. It's the same thing when men marry. I think there was I forget the guy's name who got divorced, but everything he owned and all his money and accounts were under his mother's name. So he owned nothing and she couldn't touch it. And an irrevocable trust is the same thing. You are the trustee is responsible and holds it. You don't hold it.
That was a famous NBA player that did that, I believe.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I thought like from a Christian perspective, traditional surrogacy was basically when you knock up the concubine, and that just that became the child of the wife.
Uh, yeah. Well, it's a legal matter. I don't. Yeah, a surrogate was named from a usually a concubine when the queen couldn't have the king's child. That's where surrogacy came into play. But they didn't like the name concubine, so they came up with the term a surrogate.
Mm. Yeah, I know that. I mean, I do get like the need for having that sort of system because I mean, if the whole point of say things like child support or the like was to make men more responsible, after 150 years, I think of this system being in place, because I think originally child support was just done in one state and then it just gradually kept going on and on until it became more nationalized. But if the point was to make men more responsible, we have to admit that it sort of failed on every conceivable level known to man, and even some
Yeah,
measures known exclusively to dolphins. Because the the fact of the matter is that there are more single mother homes now than there was 150 years ago when child support was first put into place. So, I mean, obviously, I'm not saying that all men like that got split from their child and with the single mother homes and stuff, they didn't want their child, because of course there are many men that were unjustly separated, that are unjustly separated from their kids. But the point is, like, if the purpose was to make men more responsible, it at the very least hasn't worked.
Yeah, so same thing with prohibition. When you ban something, it just means evil or illegal activity is done. And the same thing when in Canada we banned certain firearms. It's still crossed the border with people smuggling and just reused for criminal activity. So when you ban something, uh, when you try to enforce um, things that are natural that people want to do, then people just do it illegally. And the same thing with when you try to make men more responsible, the only ones that's going to be responsible were the good men that wanted to be fathers in the first place, and punishing them, while the bad boys and criminals that just knock up a woman and ghost her and run away to another country in case she threatens to sue them. Uh, that's what happens. You're going to get mostly children born to single mothers from criminals.
Well, yeah, and if you really think
And
about it, it's like the the whole purpose is like to make men more responsible and stuff like that, but the the people that would be paying, at least, let's say you have rich men that are on child support, like rich men have the resources to be able to severely cut their child support to make it as minimal as possible, whereas the poor broke men really don't have much options at all. So what you end up doing is you end up creating a system where it more or less makes wealthy men able to upskirt their responsibilities, whereas the poor men get just thrown under the bus. I see Suvia's here again. She left the chat for a bit.
Yeah, sorry guys, my daughter called me from school. I'm kind of missed this part of the conversation, but I see that you guys are still kind of on the same topic. So,
Oh yeah.
we can change the topic. Is there something you want to add?
no, I was just saying that we were still on it. One of the other things though that I would add is, I think that part of it's just kind of like knowledge and understanding of the issue. And I think that that's a big thing, that if you can get more people to kind of understand how it's better. It's not the same kind of surrogacy. It's not leaving a child with one parent over the other. It's making things more fair. But just like, I don't remember who it was, we were talking about this with the other day, and they were really opposed to it. And I think that that's the reaction that most women would give, even understanding the idea. I think that a lot of women would fear that the contract portion of it would, by them signing a contract like that, almost give the father more grounds for custody. I think that'll be the main fear out of a lot of women, is that by signing that, they're giving the father more rights, or kind of signing away some of their rights.
A lot of the
Well,
yeah. Oh, you could yeah. What I was gonna
okay,
say.
so that was between me and Red Pill Barbie last Friday.
Mhm. Yeah. And what I was gonna say, a lot of the pushback that I see to surrogacy is generally against gay men, where even a lot of times when gay men do the whole surrogacy thing, it's like they have a lesbian friend of theirs who they know carry the child, and like one of them's the father, with the sperm, and they just use like an egg from another, like from a donor, and they have their lesbian friend carry the child, or even just use her egg or whatever, and they do surrogacy that way, and they just, and all people see is the two men with the children in their hand, and they bash the men. Well, when you actually look at the dynamic that many of these gay men have with these women, is that, like I said, they're using their lesbian friends, and once the children are born, many of them set up arrangements where, technically speaking, in many cases, the biological mother, if the surrogate was the lesbian themselves with the who gave her egg, like, you know, they have it all set up where the biological mother and father in that case are taking care of the child, but the only thing people see or care about is the fact that there are two men that are holding a baby, when the fact of the matter is like, lesbians use surrogacy a lot, but no one really cares in that case.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think that a lot of times they aren't necessarily depriving the one of, or I'm sorry, depriving the child of one parent over the other. But I still think that, what we're talking about here with the traditional surrogacy, it's still going to be a much healthier kind of dynamic in the child's life, because the chances of the parents being separated are going to be a lot lower, I would think. But what would you say, Logan, to, I mean, I know you and Barbie kind of had this discussion the other day, but what would you say would be a way to kind of help people understand, um, or, I don't know, just kind of ease women's minds that these kinds of things are not going to be turned around against them? Because obviously, no good parent wants to think that they're going to have automatically less right to visitation or custody with their child. You know, everybody wants to, if they're a good parent, or they think they're a good parent, I guess. You know, they want to be ensured that they're not going to lose any kind of rights to their child.
In any way or form, like
Here's a phone.
Sorry, I had to step away. Yeah, so the mother would never lose any rights. She would have full visitation rights and full rights to how the and say to the child. The only thing she can't do is, if the full surrogacy agreement is going through, is that she can't steal the child and take full custody for herself. That's it. Or she would have to fight it in court, with her own lawyer. That's the only thing she can do.
yeah, and I mean, that of course goes into the best interest of the child standard, which no one can actually give an objective definition for. But yeah, that's how.
Yeah, there is nothing to take away a biological mother. There's nothing to waive her rights if she's a biological mother.
The other
It's
thing that
just
I think
it's
that,
just
oh, sorry, I was just going to say
it's just
the other
who's
part.
the primary guardian. The primary
Gotcha.
guardian would be named the father. That's it. So he's fully responsible for the well-being. That's it.
So would it also, because I know from, my divorce with my son, and having primary custody, that does usually mean that you get priority on certain decision making things. And so if that did automatically go to the father, wouldn't that sort of be a little bit of a loss on the mother's part, considering that she basically signed that you're the primary no matter what? So then it has to obviously go to court, which I don't think that it's fair either way for it to automatically go to one parent over the other. I'm just saying that I think these are the kind of things that are going to keep women, from even entertaining these ideas.
Yeah, it's totally fair. I say it as a deterrent, especially when she could possibly, um, when separation, want to use the child as a weapon. So she would use the child to say, "Hey, if you don't do what I say, then I'm going to take the children away from you and make you pay child support." But when a traditional surrogacy goes through, it just makes it more fair. And if you go by Christian values, as I believe you do, it should be um, God, Father, Mother, and children. And so the
And
father
Holy
should
Spirit.
usually have final say in what goes on with the children. And as the primary guardian of the children, and he has full responsibility over the children, he can't wait. He can't run away from his responsibility. So it's actually protecting the mother in this case, where the father can't just run away and neglect his obligations because he has primary guardianship. It's not like he has sole custody. The mother still has full rights to the child as the biological mother with traditional surrogacy. The only thing is she could possibly still claim full ownership or primary rights if she fights it in court. And there are cases where the biological mother, has won, even with the traditional surrogacy in place. But a lot has to be proven, especially where showing him as an unfit father, and that's usually how they win it.
Yeah, and I think that's probably like the most marketable stance on this issue is that a lot of women do complain about, men shirking their responsibility or being able to run away from their families or whatever. And so in this situation, it is very much a guarantee that he's not able to just, turn and run.
Yeah, and so that's when you have rules and regulations banning this and forcing men to be more responsible with child support. It just makes men run away because they see, especially if they can't afford it. And what happened with my best friend when he had to pay for everything, and it was more than he could afford. So the only thing that he could do was either quit his job before and pretty much get money under the table and claim uh, he has no money to pay child support, or he he evaluated on his full income and he still has to pay that, and then he has to, because he had to pay 90% of his income before taxes, because he had to pay for the household, he had to pay for um, everything, and he couldn't live there because uh, they did a silver bullet divorce because they claimed abuse when none was proven. So, and when COVID hit, he lost his job or he got laid off and he couldn't continue the payments. So he automatically gets thrown in jail for 6 months. By the time he got out, he accrued over 100,000, maybe $200,000 in debt that he had to pay back within 6 months. And he lost his job because he went to jail. So how is he going to pay that back? So he was in a dead end loop. So he ended up offing himself because he had no way out. So the only resource that men have when that happens, and I see this as more of a deterrent to make sure that there is no breakup of the marriage because or the relationship, because they can't just steal everything and take everything from the husband because they have the legal right to, and it's definitely one sided, especially with family courts. So then you're just having children with deadbeat dads that run away. Sometimes they leave the country, or they just knock up a woman as soon as they find out she's pregnant. They run away and hide, and she's left a single mother, or she has to go through abortion.
So this, a lot of times, I just want you guys to know that a lot of times I'm not speaking from my own personal opinion. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate or see it from female perspective. What kind of responses you might get from these things, but um, it almost could be like something that almost could be. Sorry, I just repeated myself. Like marketed to women as a way to ensure things like that. If you have this kind of contract during pregnancy, it ensures that so it almost could be something that women could be asking for at some point, where they could say, hey, let's do this contract because it benefits me and it benefits you.
Yeah, I'm just trying to keep the government out of it because if you don't have a parenting agreement, it could be 50-50, whatever parenting agreement is. But again, that doesn't negate who's the primary guardian, and it would all, in de facto, go to the mother. The mother, even with a 50-50 split, the mother still would have full custody if she decides to fight for it. So it's kind of like a prenup still where in case of separation, but a lot of, so it's where they see the stigma of having this contract is kind of planning to fail. They see it as a planning to fail. So, but I see it more of an insurance policy to keep the family together because if she cannot technically get cash and prizes for breaking the contract, which mostly they do because they get alimony, child support, and any type of sympathy and support, where she can go and do her own thing. There's plenty of records of a mother who just decided to go find herself and go travel the world and left her two children with a husband and father, and she decided to come back. I think like 2-3 months later, and decided, oh, I want. After I guess she had fun in Europe and other places she traveled to with other men, obviously, that she decided to get divorced, and she still won custody. And this is what happened with my best friend. That the mother of his child, she went back to an ex that uh, she found her first love or whatever, ended up sleeping with her ex and having a child with the other man, and still won not only the household but everything.
Sorry, I was on across the room from my phone. Yeah, I mean, I think that that's probably another thing that a lot of women, and I think this might have been something that Red do, was just kind of the setting up the contract um, because you're expecting things to fail. And I do see that as being another issue that people will have with things like this is that when you're setting something like this up, you're almost saying, because this is likely to fail, I want to make sure that I'm protected in this case. And I mean, whether that's right or that's wrong, it's kind of the situation that we're left with.
Good morning, everyone. Hello. I feel so far away from this conversation. I don't have any children. I'm very happy that I don't have any children. I seem to start to agree with the homosexuals that women are overrated. I disagree with the way they express it, but women are overrated. I have a very healthy relationship with my wife, and I believe the reason why is because we don't have children. And I see all the couples around me that have children have a very ugly marriage. A friend of mine I was talking to, we were at dinner, my wife and I and his wife and him and his wife, and she said something like, oh, our son hates his dad. And then I found out that I was talking to my wife later, and I found out that that friend, she went to see her son in another city, and the father didn't go. And I said, why didn't he go with her? She goes, no, he hates him. He doesn't like him. And I can only blame the woman. Like, like if my mom, although I disagreed with my dad and I had a bad relationship, she always forced me to love my dad and see the good side of him. So I can't help it but blame that woman for not fixing the relationship between the son and the father. I really believe having children is a national issue. Like it's related to a nation. If you don't care about the nation, having children is probably a selfish thing. Just like when you take an animal and you put them in the house and you domesticate them, it's for your own enjoyment. It's nothing. What's the value of having children except that you feel loved? It's all about you. That you did this, you created this. Now, if you speak from a nationalistic perspective, yes, children are very important for the nation to continue. If you believe in the nation, if you don't believe in a nation, who cares? I believe right now I'm 60. I'm hoping within 20 years robots will be affordable, and then I don't have to worry about having somebody taking care of me because a robot will be able to do the chores and the stuff as I get older. Right now my dad is 100, my mom is 98. I have to go there. I have to take care of them every once in a while. Between me and my brother and my sister, we alternate. So I do see the value of having children to take care of you. But machines can replace children. Now, my experience with
Hold on,
women,
before you continue, I need to address those points. Sorry, I had to
Go
step
ahead.
away. I'm trying to run a company here. So, first of all, the meaning of life is to continue life. So if you're what you're saying is pretty much selfish yourself because you want robots to take care of you when you get old. Why don't you just kill yourself when you can take care of yourself? If that's the case, why don't you just go with euthanasia and go with the MAID program, and then stop being a burden to everybody else that have to take care of you and have to fund any type of care if you want it that way. But I think children are pretty much the way that there's two different types of meaning to life, where you either create life, which is the mother creates life, and or you protect life to keep it going. Because if we don't have humanity, what do we have? If you're going to replace everything with robots,
Um,
are we just going to be a memory of robotics running the world? And pretty much all humans would die out at that point.
if I may interject, I said technically speaking, God creates life. Everyone else just sort of chips in.
Well, God created the initial start of life, yes, but then you would have the continuation of life. That's the continuation through birth and through because men creates life themselves because we can create millions of sperm. That's the action, and the egg is the gestational, the growings. We have the seed, and the egg is what grows it, and what makes a baby is both takes men and women to make a just life to be a human. Because before that, it's just life. It's just a single cell organism.
let me share something that happened to me a little bit earlier that might have changed or skewed my thinking. When I was about 40 years old, or yeah, no, a little bit less, so at 35 years old, 37 years old, yeah. When I was 37 years old, I met a woman who's 15 years younger than me. I didn't approach her. She approached me. She wanted to be with me, all the stuff. And we decided to get married. And when she got pregnant, she realized that the age difference is huge. And so she decided to have an abortion. And when I went through the whole process, I begged her not to have an abortion, but she didn't listen. But I went through even going with her to the clinic, and I saw how I was treated in the clinic. They wouldn't even talk to me. I asked them to talk to her. They're like, no, this is her decision. Nobody's gonna, you shut up. Of course, when it came to paying for the abortion, they turned to me. And that experience made me realize that I don't have much power. And once you don't have much power, you don't want to engage. As a male, I don't know. I wouldn't go into a fist fight knowing that the guy is stronger than me. Like, that's stupid. Stupidity is ugly. So when I got married again, I got married to somebody my age, at the age of 40, and everybody told me she might not have children. I was like, I don't care. Why having children is so important? And as I get older, I realize that it's not that important. As long as I keep fit, as long as I have machines that help me, as long as I'm prepared for my old age, why do I need somebody, that having a child is, again, I can only understand having children from a nationalistic perspective. If you are part of a nation or a tribe or whatever, and you want this nation to continue, then you contribute to the nation by adding more citizens into that nation. But if you don't have a nationalistic interest, why do you want to have children? Like, just so you can say, I have a child? Like, what's the return on investment here? That somebody loves you? Like, what is it?
No, here, hold on. So I know plenty of parents that adopted, and they do it to pass on their knowledge. They do it to pass on their legacy. Well,
For nationalistic, yeah. I mean, for
no, it's not just national. No, it's completely.
So
it could be
for what?
completely. What do you mean for what? Okay, what do you work? What do you work for? What happens when you die? Are you just if you want to live like an animal, you can live like an animal and just fucking kill and,
Oh, is it
and
so?
do
I
whatever
don't
you
have.
want.
So my wife and I don't have children. We're animals in your eyes, really? Because we don't have
I'm
children.
not
We're
saying that.
animals.
Hold
Are
on,
gay people
hold on.
animals? Are gay people animals? They can't have children.
I'm trying to say what do you work so hard for?
Because you
What
compared
purpose do
me.
you
You're
have?
living when you said you're
What's
like
your
an
meaning of life?
animal.
What's your meaning of
You
life?
compared me. You compared
No,
me
I
to
did
an
not
animal.
compare you. I did
Yes,
not
you did.
compare
You said you want
to
to
an
live like an animal. What do you mean you didn't compare me? You compared me to an animal. You're like, do you want to live like an animal? So if I don't want to have children, I'm an animal? Really?
I mean, we are all animals in a way.
Yeah, we are. I'm just trying to say what's your meaning? What do you work for? What's your purpose in life?
Why having children gives me a purpose?
Cocaine and hookers.
Exactly. So what?
Well,
This is
I
just
mean,
all
I
indulgence
want to
for you?
understand why does having children gives a meaning to my life? Like, so I don't have a meaning to my life because I don't have children?
No, we pass on things. So we say, why do we write a book? Why do we plant a tree? Why do we
Because you want to
why do
contribute to a
we
nation. You're contributing to a
oh my
group
goodness.
you believe in.
It's to have something carry on.
You
It's to have
you're
something
right.
to carry on once you die.
So it's an
It's
ego.
a,
So it's an ego. So it's a legacy. You want to be famous. You want to be known. You want to be mentioned. It's an ego issue then. Again, if you believe in a nation and you're contributing to a nation, you would contribute by a book, by building a building, building a hospital, having a child. You're contributing to the nation, to a group. But if you don't believe in a group, what are you contributing to?
yeah, community, a group. So
Right.
someone to share your
So
ideals, someone to pass on your knowledge, someone to pass on
you can write a
your
book. I have a
work.
patent in my name. I have a patent in my name in
So
technology,
do
and
I.
I
I have
actually
several.
contributed. Yeah, my lawyers, when I said I couldn't make money out of it, He said, "Don't worry. Tell your friends that you contributed to the knowledge of man." And it's a patent that is being used everywhere. It's in security. It's in physical intrusion detection. Ring uses my patent, but again, it's for you're contributing. Having children is directly related to contributing to a community or a nation. But if you don't believe in that nation, or if you don't believe in that community, there's no need to contribute. Like if you believe your
Then be
nation
a
is.
hermit. Why don't we just
Wait,
all be hermits
why do
in
you
the
have to
woods?
be a hermit? Why do you have to be a hermit? Like, why? So I cannot have a woman? Oh, if I don't want to contribute to society. You see, you're again. I found a woman
What are you
who
doing it for? What's your purpose? What are you doing it for?
why am I alive to begin with? I'm alive. Why don't we kill ourselves all? Like, why am I alive? I'm alive and I have to eat. I'm eating to stay alive because it's a natural desire to be alive. Why do I have fun? Why do I go to a movie to
Is
entertain
that not
myself?
animalistic? Is that not selfish?
And what's wrong with being selfish? Because I eat animals all the time. Isn't that selfish? Well, you worry about the chicken when you eat it? You worry about the cow or the lamb when you eat it? Do you lose sleep over the lamb that you just ate in a hamburger? Yeah, I mean, this world is based on domination submission. Either you're a prey or you're a predator. There's no other equation in this universe. The strong eats the
Okay, I'm
weak.
gonna go to a male space because you're switching the topic. Go ahead, male
No, no,
space.
no. I'm just saying.
Well, I mean,
No,
okay,
you are.
let
You're
me jump
negating
in.
the topic.
Let me jump in for a second. I think it is an interesting conversation, um, but I do want to hear from other people as well. But I think that we can continue this conversation. Though I don't want it to just end. I mean, if we take a little break and talk about something else, I will come back and challenge you, the independent Muslim. So, but yeah, let's go with the male space. But stick around because I'm very captivated by by what you're saying. So,
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah. I'm just saying this in conversation. I'm not really arguing per se, but this statement kind of reminds me when people say you don't need even pertaining to sex, meaning that what do you need a girlfriend for? What do you need a wife for? You could just go pay a hooker. Or when people say, what
Oh
do you
no,
need
you
children?
do need no. You need scientifically. We've proven that you need to touch a female.
Sorry, I'm gonna mute your mic if you're going to interrupt. Go ahead, male space.
And it kind of I see what independent is he's going with there. What I'm saying is, and I understand what he means by that. Yeah, I could differentiate between the need and some type of desire. In this case, desire for children. This kind of almost seems, and I'm not saying this is insulting. It just seems to me like almost tone deaf. I mean, why do you want a child? Children are only for labor. Children are only to contribute to a nation. That kind of actually in the same way that a man needs affection. You don't need children per se, but it almost reminds me that like why do I want to see my child play soccer in little league? What do you need your child to play little league for? Why do you want to watch that? Why are you getting joy from this? Your joy is selfish. You don't need to. You could do something else with your joy. I mean, or achieve joys through other ways. Why do I want to go to my daughter's dance recital? You could just be making dancers for a nation. If you don't want to make a dancer for a nation, you really shouldn't be that intrigued for seeing your daughter dance, or graduate school, or go to a college, or become a professional, or become a civic minded citizen of a country, which goes back to what he's saying. But I think that I'm making my point here. It's like, what do you mean? Like, why? It's almost unexplainable, but it's still understandable, even if it's not explainable. Why do I want to see my kid when I walk through my door today? Why do I want to see my son or daughter run up to me? Is that for a nation? I think that explains it, even though I'm not explaining it in the best way. So go ahead.
Yeah, so art has a lot to do with it. Human art is transcendent. We remember Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. We remember the Rembrandts or the Mona Lisa. This is stuff that continues on. This is human culture. We're continuing on human culture. And if you need children or you need offspring to continue on that culture, and if you don't have that, then you die out. All humanity dies out. That was my point.
Yeah, you
Go
see,
ahead, John. Sorry, John. John
Oh,
Tenney.
thanks. Yes, I tend to look at this through the lens of evolutionary psychology. Um, I, I think we're so resource focused. If you look through the evolutionary lens, men exchange resources for sex and partnership, right? And women exchange sex for resources. And the entire system's been upended. And we use words like, let's say, selfishness, but that implies a moral landscape that I don't think quite applies to what's really happening in our brains, if that makes sense. I don't know. So, I mean, I could go on, but I might bore people to death with that. So, I think the entire landscape is shifting. Women